Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a first look at an upcoming Tier 8 American Premium Medium Tank, the IMT. This tank is interesting in the sense that it's going to be gimmickless. As you might have seen in the TS6 video, it's going to be without anything special. So it is just a traditional American medium tank. It has a gun, it has tracks, it doesn't do anything special. But does that mean it's actually going to be bad? Well, let's actually have a look at what that might mean. So, this is the IMT. It's going to be a 360 Alpha American medium tank. It looks kind of a little bit funky, I will say that. There is something funky going on with the tracks. As I said, on paper right now, there is no gimmick. There is nothing special here. So, maybe there is plans down the line. Maybe they're just testing the tank first, but let's just pretend it's gimmickless for the time being and have a look at this thing's raw statistics. So, as I said, a 360 Alpha American Tier 8 medium tank. Quite nice. The Alpha creep is a thing, and it is being shown here. It's going to have 210 standard AP penetration. That's not great. 246 gold APCR penetration. That's also not great. This thing's penetration is really quite low, and it will show, especially at tier 8. 210 standard is quite low and will struggle, especially when you look at some other tier 8 medium tanks that, especially their gold rounds, are packing 300mm of penetration. 246 APCR just doesn't compete. So this thing will struggle with its penetration. Its reload time of 12.3 seconds gives this thing a pretty mediocre DPM of about 1700. So not great in that department either. So it's lacking penetration. It's not going to have a great DPM. Is there anything going for it? Well, its gun is going to be okay for 360 Alpha. It's 2.7 seconds aim time, 0.37 dispersion. That is okay. And what I mean by okay is it's not the best, but it's also not the worst. 2.7 seconds is okay. You will feel it being a little bit slow to aim fully, but it's okay, especially as you don't have a particularly fast reloading gun, so it's going to kind of play a little bit more passively. But the 0.37 dispersion shouldn't hold this thing back apart from at maximum 300 meters beyond. So if you're sniping at distance, 0.37 dispersion you will feel that, but on paper, it should be okay. You have 10 degrees of gun depression, which is quite nice, actually. You're not the quickest, however. Mobility is lacking. 50 forward, 20 in reverse. Yeah, you're not particularly going anywhere very quickly. And your power to weight ratio, is a little bit more like a heavy tank than a medium tank. So you are going to take a long time to get up to speed and a long time to basically go anywhere. This thing is quite slow, quite sluggish, quite heavy. So not great in that department. So far we've got low penetration, low DPM, and it's not very quick. Yeah, not much seems to be going for this tank right now. It's also going to have quite low hit points. 1250 is strange. We don't really have many tier 8 mediums that have 1250, especially premiums. Most of them seem to have 1300 nowadays, so that's a bit strange. And its armor is also really weak. Its armor kind of reminds me of the M48KR, which is the tier 8 American medium tank that is available through bonds. Yeah. It's got 120 millimeters frontally on the turret and 101 on the hull. And this thing's hull is huge. It is big and fat, and it is very easy to pen, it seems. So this thing doesn't really seem to have much going for it right now. And, maybe that turret isn't actually 120. If we actually have a look at it, maybe the 120 areas are going to be here. However, it looks like it has a huge cupola. And maybe it's got a shot trap. And maybe this is a weak point. At the minute, it doesn't seem to particularly have much going for it. And it seems quite bad, I will say. However, it's going to have 390 meters view range, which is quite nice for a medium tank, actually. But so far, it's got pretty bad pen, low DPM, its gun is okay, but not incredible. It's slow, it's heavy, has low hit points, and it has low armor. So far, it doesn't really have much going for it. But let's actually see what this is going to mean when we stack it up compared to the AAT-60, which is the Tier 8 American Premium Medium Tank that we got through the Mars mission in March 2024, and the Chrysler MTC-2TC, which is unreleased, so it's not in the game yet, but it is on the Supertest itself, and it's had a number of iterations. This is its latest iteration that has not been changed for about 3 or 4 months now, so we're expecting this to be released somewhat soon. I will put a link to the video that I do have on the Chrysler in the top right corner. Do check that out if you would like to. So, the IMT has the worst DPM of the three. However, not much worse than the Chrysler. Both have low DPM. The AAT does have really quite nice DPM of 2,300. However, 1,700 for the IMT and 1,870 for the Chrysler, not great. 360 Alpha. Okay, so the IMT is going to have 360 Alpha. The Chrysler is going to have 360 Alpha. The AAT has 320. So Alpha, it's okay. Reload time. The longest reload time of the three. 12.3 compared to 11.5 for the Chrysler and 8.34 for the AAT. Not great. That's where the AAT gets its DPM from, is lower alpha, faster reload. The IMT, higher alpha, longer reload, lower DPM. Dispersion. Okay, the IMT sits smack bang between the AAT and the Chrysler. The Chrysler has 0.4, the AAT has 0.34, the IMT is going to have 0.37. So literally smack bang between the two. It's going to be average, as I said. It's not going to be the worst, but it's not going to be the best. Aim time. It is going to be the worst of the three, interestingly. The AAT has a really quite snappy gun. It is genuinely quite nice. 0.34 dispersion with 1.92 seconds aim time feels really snappy. The IMT is not going to be snappy. However, it isn't going to be terrible because of its long reload. So, 2.7 seconds aim time with a long reload is okay. Its mobility it seems okay here when we compare it to the AAT and the Chrysler, but comparing it to other medium tanks of other nations that can go 60, 65, it just doesn't stack up. And you are going to have to run a turbo on it. And as we said, the power to weight ratio is really bad, so it's going to take a lot to get up to that speed, and then it will probably drop off that speed, especially when you get into slower, boggier terrain. So 50 forwards compared to 44 compared to 50 for the Chrysler. It's okay, not incredible as we've found out. All of them have 10 degrees of gun depression, but here we can see that HP. 1250 compared to 1300 for the Chrysler and 1400 for the AAT. 1250 is really low nowadays. We've got tanks at tier 8 with 1400 HP, 1300, 1350. 1250 feels really, 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 really bad. And I wouldn't be shocked if they were to make some changes to this tank to, make it a little bit less average. The HP would be one of the first things that goes up. On paper, the armor is okay. It's going to have better hull armor than the AAT, but the AAT has got a paper hull. The IMT is also going to have a paper hull, but on paper it's 31mm thicker. Not really going to make a difference. The turret, interestingly, 120 is going to be worse than the AAT's, and the AAT's turret is pretty weak. It's funnily shaped, but it does, if it does get hit, it gets penned most of the time. There are some funny ricochet angles, and as we found out, maybe there's some funny ricochet angles with the IMT, but we'll have to wait and see, and neither of the two, IMT or the AAT, stack up to the Chrysler's turret of 254. That thing is pretty brutal for a medium tank and is looking quite nice. Penetration is where this tank, as we said, also struggles, and it just doesn't stack up to the AAT. 210 AP compared to 230 APCR, compared to 212 AP. Even the Chrysler having slightly better penetration is really bad. And in gold penetration, 246 APCR compared to 285 heat and 248 APCR. You can just see here how the IMT is just subpar compared to a tank like the AAT, which isn't even overpowered. It is just a decent tank. The AAT has its weaknesses, very much so. But as we can see here, in its current format, the IMT is going to be, I'm going to say it, bad. Objectively bad in the sense it really has nothing going for it, the IMT, which is unfortunate because we don't tend to see these gimmickless tanks come to the game, especially to the Supertest anymore. I mean, probably the last 20 tanks we've had on the Supertest have had some form of gimmick, whether it be track mechanics, gun mechanics, engine mechanics, whatever. They all have some kind of a gimmick, and this doesn't. And it does slightly worry me in a sense that this tank does look bad because it doesn't have a gimmick. If it had a gimmick, maybe something going for it. You know, maybe it had the ability to double shot, or maybe it had the ability to go quicker, or whatever. It just doesn't have any of that. So it is looking pretty bad on paper. As to when we see this tank, I don't know. I think this tank needs a number of iterations before we see any form of final version of it. You know, I'd love to see them increase that HP, maybe increase that power to weight ratio a little bit, maybe that penetration as well, and maybe take a little bit off that reload time to increase the DPM, just so it's a little bit more even towards the AAT. I don't want it to be better than the AAT, I am not saying that. In its current state, if this thing came into the game, it would just be objectively bad. So I would like to see them make some future iterations to this. I wouldn't be shocked if we don't see that. If we do see that, sorry. And yeah, do let me know down in the comments what you think about this tank. Do you agree with me that it looks pretty bad? Do you disagree with me? Let me know. If you did like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all again very soon.